I have a specific program in terms of here's the steps that we do together, but I don't have a here's the dementia by day program. There you go, roll it out. I don't have that. And I think that's kind of cool. I don't really want that. I want to be able to work with companies on a more individual level than just being like, oh, look, you can buy my program for, $50,000 or something crazy, right?
That is Rachel Wonderlin, one of the nation's leading dementia care consultants. She has worked with thousands of people in and around the dementia care community and hears these shared fears all the time. This is Act 3. I'm Michael Sentz, founder of CaringWire and your host. On this episode, I'm going to make the case that the best care comes from people and organizations that listen. I'm going to prove that to you with stories from one of the nation's leading dementia care consultants. Along the way, uncovering common misconceptions, tips, and tricks to sustaining a high quality of life with dementia. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Act 3. I'm your host, Michael Sentz. And on this episode, I'm thrilled to be joined by one of the nation's leading dementia care consultants, Rachel Wonderlin. Rachel is the owner of Dementia by Day and the author of When Someone You Know is Living in a Dementia Care Community. She's also the co-author of Dementia by Day Journal. Rachel's work has been featured in numerous publications, including NPR, Forbes, and the Washington Post, to name a few. So Rachel, without further ado, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So we haven't met before. So I'm really excited to have this conversation and, start off with kind of what I call the breadcrumbs. You want to give me just the cliff notes of how you got here?
Sure.
What does it look like?
Yeah. So I started working in senior living probably when I was about 15. I started volunteering in a skilled nursing facility and really liked it. So I went on to college, got a bachelor's in psychology. Immediately following, went to graduate school, got my master's in gerontology, which is the study of aging.
Sure.
And I don't really know when I started focusing in dementia-specific care. I just know I always liked learning about the brain and how the brain works. So I started focusing in like that side of things. And if you combine aging and the brain, you pretty much end up with dementia, right? You kind of learn about like diseases related to aging. So started working in dementia care. My first job out of graduate school in the field, I had a couple random jobs, but my first job out of graduate school in the field was working in a dementia care community. So a Brookdale senior living building that had a dementia specific care.
A memory care facility?
Yeah, I like to say dementia care community because not everybody with dementia has a memory problem. Okay. And then I'm also trying to get rid of the word facility because it sounds institutionalized. It doesn't sound great. So that's what. So some of the things that I say are very
intentional
to this. Yeah, they're very intentional with the language that I use regarding dementia care. Yeah,
that makes sense. There's definitely a stigma around that. So after you started working in a Brookdale facility, you kind of learn it from an institutional route. Then you decide to go out on your own?
I worked in 2 more communities. So I worked in Brookdale for a year. I moved up to Pittsburgh and started at another community, which I did not like. Left there after 7 or 8 months. Went to another building, which I worked in for a year. I started my blog probably like 2 weeks after working at Brookdale. Okay. And the blog evolved into the idea for a book. So the book, by the time I stopped my last 9 to 5, more like my, 8 to 6 job here in Pittsburgh, I got laid off in August of 2016. And I went home and I was like, I'm not doing this again. I'm not going to work for another company where they have the power to lay me off or, make me want to quit or anything like that. I want to do my own thing. So my book was coming out in November. So late August, book coming out in November. I thought, well, you know what? I'm just going to really position myself as a consultant. I always wanted to be working for myself, and I thought, well, this is the time to do it. So,
sure. Absolutely, I love that. So, a lot of overlap in your story to where I came from. I was probably 3 classes away from a gerontology minor in college. I loved it. I thought it was so interesting. I decided to go business and not have a minor, partially because I did some study abroad programs that I just couldn't get the credits in.
Yeah.
But I saw so much overlap in business and gerontology, right?
Yeah.
Huge wave was coming. Everybody knew it. The numbers were undeniable. And kind of fast forward, one of the things that got me really passionate about this space was seeing my mom care for her aging parents, right? And actually being worried that she had early onset dementia herself.
Okay.
She started to get super stressed out, call me the dog's name. And for like somebody who was a lawyer, growing up, the sharpest person I knew, kept me out of trouble in school. To be calling me the dog's name, to be flustered all the time, it was so scary, right?
Yeah.
And when I dug into it, I realized, no, this is just the caregiver journey. This is what we deal with. And my grandmother had dementia. She passed away in December, but it was such an odd experience to go through because we didn't actually know she had dementia. We just thought she was getting old. Mm-hmm. And my grandpa was covering for her, right?
Yeah, so that happens.
Partnering off each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that made it so hard for my mom to deal with it because she didn't know what she was dealing with, right? She didn't know what to do or even how to articulate what was going on because it was kind of smoke and mirrors. So do you see, as you've been in this field, now you're a consultant, I guess kind of going down that path, do you serve communities and help them design better care for them, or is it individuals?
It's communities. I do have my blog and my book are for families. So I have a lot of free content out there for families who are taking care of a loved one with dementia. But the majority of my business is for senior living buildings who want to elevate their dementia care. It's actually hard to explain that to people because a lot of times I have friends of friends who contact me online and they're like, my grandmom has dementia. Can you help me with this?
Sure.
I have a phone call service where people can pay to talk to me for a half hour or for 60 minutes. And that does happen. I probably do anywhere from, 2 to 4 calls a month for people who pay for that service.
Okay.
But the majority of my business is for senior living communities and programs.
Sure. And so with the calls, I'm obviously very passionate about this because of what I saw my mom went through. I know the questions that she has and all her friends have. Are there some common questions and concerns that people have that keep coming up when they call you?
Yeah, I wrote the book because there were the same questions. I was realizing people have the same questions again and again, and there's really nowhere for them to get answers. So I wrote the book, and each chapter is essentially based off a question that I've been asked. Okay. During the phone calls, I've found that people typically call me when they already know an answer. They just want me to tell them it's okay. So I kind of usually get people who pretty much know what they're doing. A lot of times they've been following my work for a while. So it's not just like they stumbled upon me and paid $50 to talk to me on the phone. They've been getting my blog emails twice a week for a year. They've been watching my channel. They listen to my podcast.
So what is it shame that is causing, do you think it's shame that's causing people to second guess themselves and they're so overwhelmed that they just need that reassurance, or what's causing people to do that?
I think people feel really guilty that they have to make big decisions on behalf of their loved ones. And so they just want to confirm that the decision is the right one and that other people are in the same situation. There's a lot of caregivers seem to misunderstand. They think oh, I'm the only person going through this specific thing. And it's no, people will ask me at events, I'll say, oh, I have a question. it's a weird question. And I always say, I guarantee it's not a weird question. I've been asked like 3 weird questions in the last 5 years.
So
it's pretty much the same questions again and again. What
are the top 3 common questions that people ask you?
Well, I guess that depends exactly what I'm speaking on, but just generally, people ask me, what's the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia? How do I know when it's time to move someone into a care community setting? How do I take mom or dad's driver's license away? Those are probably the 3 biggest ones.
Sure.
And then everything else splits. I mean, the overarching question that people always have is like, how do I communicate with my loved one? But they don't ask that question. That comes from me educating them, or from them getting information from me online based off of other questions. So they'll be like, well, my mom always argues with me. What do I do? And then we have that conversation.
Yeah. So sticking with that, if we answer those 3 real quick.
Yeah.
Is there a difference between Alzheimer's and dementia?
So dementia is the umbrella term. I hate the phrase Alzheimer's and dementia, because people think we're talking about 2 different things. Alzheimer's disease is the most common cause of dementia. There's over 100 different causes of dementia.
Sure.
Second one, when do you move somebody? The short answer is, if you've been thinking about it, it's been time. Most people wait far too long to move somebody. They go, all of a sudden, dad can't walk or feed himself or do anything. And they're like, oh, we got to move dad. It's like, should move dad 2 years ago.
Yeah.
The third one is, if you wouldn't put your grandkid in the car with them, they shouldn't be driving. So you do kind of like the grandchild test. Like, if you wouldn't let you wouldn't let like a young person be in the car with them, then they shouldn't be driving. And for that, we like to blame it on the doctor, or blame it on the DMV. So the doctor can refer to the DMV for a driver's test.
Sure.
And the person will go and objectively get their license taken away, because they'll do a driver test and they'll fail.
So the population that you deal with, or that you help, consult, and your content goes towards, is that the patients, their loved ones, a caregiver? Is it like all the above? Because in dementia, it really puts more pressure on the support ecosystem. Who is it for? And do they typically fall into a generally a socioeconomic class that you might see more often than not?
So my content is never really for people living with dementia. It is for people who are caring for people living with dementia. So that is professionals, and those are family caregivers, anyone who is involved in the care of older adults living with dementia. What was it? Your second question was,
do they typically fall in groups, like affinity groups, or demographics, socioeconomic?
Yeah, I'd say the people that I talk to, the people who come to when I do like speaking events. I have a speaking event on Thursday this week. A senior living building around Pittsburgh is hiring me to come in and they have an open house. So they want somebody to come in and speak and do a book signing. So I'm here. So they know me, they're bringing me in. The people who are probably going to be there are like community members, people who maybe have a deposit on the building. They'll probably be senior living professionals. It'll be like a networking event / community members. So most of these people are either taking care of somebody with dementia. Mm-hmm. They tend to be well educated. Pretty much the people who come to seek out further education usually at least have a bachelor's degree, I've discovered, because it takes a certain level of intelligence to know what you don't know, or to recognize that you don't know everything. So the people that I talk to tend to be educated individuals who are active in the community, because they have learned what resources are available. So professionals find me through LinkedIn. Caregivers find me through word of mouth, I would say, and other like events and things like that.
Yeah. one more question on the people side, on the caregiver patient side.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll transition to some things you just mentioned that I want to follow up on. So when you've been thinking about moving your parent into a facility, it's too late. What's the number one common mistake people make when moving their loved one into a dementia community?
They'll tell them, Mom, you have to move here because you have dementia. And they'll say, you live here now. This is where you live now, and you're going to live here forever. And that never goes well. That's not
They're being
what you want
honest
to lead with. Yeah. Well, because you're effectively telling this person, this is you're here forever, and you're here because you have a disease. But you can't see dementia. So someone's not going to be able to recognize that they're impaired, and then finding out, like, first of all, we think you're impaired, but second of all, you can't live at home anymore. We don't think it's safe. That's not going to go great.
Sure.
So, yeah.
That's the number one thing.
That's probably the number one thing. Yeah.
So with my grandparents' transition, we thought my grandfather was the one who didn't want to move. Turns out it was my grandmother. And I think the familiarity and the accustomed to a certain environment. So that's where she wants to stay. And so the facility we worked with, which was also a Brookdale facility, recommended, hey, come in here for a set, just a month or so. Just let them be here, test it out. And if they like it, then they can stay longer. And it was a game changer. It wasn't a forced decision. It was a trial.
Right. A respite stay is what that's usually referred to as. Yeah. A respite stay is kind of like leasing a car. Like, you have it for a little bit. You're going to try it out, and you can buy it if you want. It's a good option. It's kind of an underutilized option. Yeah.
I feel like the definition of respite stay needs to change. It needs to be I don't know. It needs to be better communicated to the caregivers such that they understand that this is an option to get to where you want to go.
Right. I was actually, in my consulting, I was just having this conversation with somebody about a week ago, and something I'm going to work on with this team that I'm talking to is designing for them a branded respite program, because most companies don't have anything like that.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Like a respite plus, and it's a wink.
People don't realize it's a thing. Like, they don't realize it's an option. Yeah. So of course they're not going to look into it unless somebody presents it to them.
Sure. So transitioning to the main focus of your business, of your books, of your content is on the facilities themselves. And you've grown up in the kind of this world, you understand the ins and outs, but still you're kind of coming into with an outsider's perspective. You're being creative. Yeah. And one of the things that I found doing a similar thing in healthcare is that you're going into an established industry that already has the ways of doing things. They have their processes, their procedures, and they're really good people doing really good things that they've done for decades. And so coming in as someone new and said, hey, have you thought about doing something different? How about we change or reevaluate how we're doing things? What are some of the obstacles and opportunities you found going through that process? And how have you found success there?
The communities that work with me, the people who hire me, are communities that pretty much fall into one of three categories. Like, they are brand new and they don't have a program yet. They don't have anything for their dementia care yet, and they want something. 2, companies who have technically a program, but it's not really fully rolled out, and they know it could be better. And then the 3rd are companies who have existed for a long time and don't have a dementia care program, or they have one, but it's awful. Like, they know that it's not any good, and they're like, we do have something, but it's not specific and it's not unique to us, Sure. So it doesn't necessarily need to be awful, but they're just like, I do meet companies who will, tell me this isn't good. We don't have anything that's not good. But most of the time I meet companies who say, we have a program, but it's not really unique to us. It's not really our style. We just kind of put something together.
And so you're getting a lot of companies who are self-aware, and they're doing direct outreach to you.
Sorry, this is my cat. She likes to come into webinars sometimes. Places want something that's not like a cookie cutter thing. So they want a program that is just for them, that they can say like, oh, this is our program, this is something our company offers. And it's not just like, oh, well, you can go, there's programs out there that you can buy and you can apply to your community. So the companies who don't work with me usually have that, or they'll say, oh, we're fine. Like our dementia care is fine how it is. Right. Or they'll say, oh, we just spent like a ton of money on Tifa Snow's gemstone program. So we can't go and bring you in too. So
gemstone program? Is that like treatment?
So Tifa Snow, I'm sure you've heard that name. Probably the most well-known name in dementia care nationally, probably also because she has a really unique name. She's been doing this for longer than I've been alive. So I've been doing this for more than 30 years. And she is a occupational therapist by trade. Her gemstone program is like, there are levels of, there are different stages of dementia. So she has it so that there's stages, and each stage is represented by a gemstone. And then like communities will have different hallways dedicated or different programs dedicated to people on different gemstone levels.
Okay. And how is yours different than the gemstone program or than a generic off-the-shelf type program?
Because I create it with the company. So a company will hire me to help them make something. So I don't have any specific, like I have a specific program in terms of here's the steps that we do together, but I don't have here's the dementia by day program. There you go, roll it out. I don't have that.
Right.
So, and I think that's kind of cool. I don't really want that. I want to be able to work with companies on a more individual level than just being like, oh, look, you can buy my program for, $50,000 or something crazy. Right.
And so does every facility have a dementia care program?
No.
But you're starting to see more and more of them create programs.
I mean, I think people are slowly but surely realizing that there is like a huge need for this. And there's also, there's a lot of competition. So if you're, community, my cat is just crazy. She loves it. She loves attention. This is what she does when I'm on calls. Yeah, Shoes. Her name is Shoes. Come on, Shoes. Sit down there. Companies are crazy, or the cats are crazy. Companies are seeing competition. It's hard, companies are seeing competition with others, because if they don't have a dementia care program and company A doesn't have anything, and down the street, here's another building, they've got a dementia care program. Mm-hmm. Well, if they're around the same cost and, a caregiver is looking to move mom, but mom has dementia and needs dementia specific care, right? She's going to go to community B.
Sure.
So community A is like, oops, we're missing out on a really large sector of the aging population who needs community-based care because we don't have a dementia-specific community.
Now, is dementia care in facility covered by Medicare or Medicaid?
Oh, it depends. So usually, no. Most communities are private pay. Now, long-term care, such as like skilled nursing, you can have Medicare will pay for like rehab. Okay. There are different sectors. If you go to like what's typically known as like a nursing home. So a nursing home would have like usually skilled nursing, rehab, and then like a long-term care side. Medicaid can help pay for, or can totally pay for, long-term care within that sector. But if you're looking at like assisted living, or in Pennsylvania, we have what's called personal care homes. Yeah, most places don't accept Medicare, and most places don't really accept Medicaid. Some communities will have like Medicaid beds. Limited so they'll have places, they'll have beds, quite literally, dedicated for residents moving in who are on Medicaid. Mm-hmm. But no, a lot of it's private pay, which makes the industry very expensive and extra stressful to navigate, because most people especially of a certain generation, do not have long-term care insurance.
Right. And so what are the options out there for individuals who can't afford $10,000 for a memory care or a dementia community?
Well, so a lot of people will spend down to Medicaid, and they'll flip to Medicaid and then go to long-term care. So like a nursing home for the care, because Medicaid can pay. Some people so I've also seen it that like someone will move into a community that's like a nonprofit, and then some communities can't kick people out. So they'll just like stay in there, or they'll get on like an angel fund or something. If there's like funding to the community, some communities will let you stay there. You can't pay.
And so does that represent an opportunity for you then, given that those facilities aren't necessarily set up to provide dementia care, but they're starting to see an influx of these people?
Oh yeah. I really want to work with companies who want to work with me. I want to work with companies who really care about dementia, and they don't just see it as like a market of like, well, looks like we can make some money doing this. I mean,
Sure.
Of course it's business. Like that's what it comes down to. But also, if somebody wants to work with me, they'll find the time and the company money to do it. The companies who I just had a great call with a company yesterday who, one phone call and they were already ready to buy my program. Like they were already ready to get started with me before the phone call.
You.
So, company, they know what they want. If they really want to work on their dementia care and they want an expert to come in and help them do that, then those are the people that I usually have extended calls with, or
so how do you evaluate a facility then and determine if or where you need to start? Do you start with their marketing material and start checking off the dots? Do they actually deliver what they say they're doing? Or do you have a more forensic approach?
I have a more forensic approach. So I have a program where people book and pay online. It turns into a 2-hour Zoom call. And it is essentially, I have a huge list of questions. I come from a pretty strong writing background. I've got the books, but also like even in high school, I was on the newspaper and I did like a bunch of interviews. And I think that actually has really benefited me here because I'm really good at asking the right questions, but then also taking cues from the people that I'm talking to maybe go off on a tangent. So the answer is it kind of depends. Where I start depends on what I think their needs are. And through that assessment, we figure that out. I propose solutions that they can do themselves, or they can hire me to do the solutions for them. Some companies will say, I talked to somebody recently who was like, our care is great. Our marketing needs help. We don't know how to reach families. What do we do? Most of the time, it's kind of the opposite, where it's like, we, know how to get to people, but we don't know how to train our care staff, or, we don't know what to do with our residents during the day. Our programming really isn't that great, stuff like that.
So if somebody's struggling with the marketing side of things, how do you evaluate that and propose a solution there?
It depends. So if they realize like, okay, we need to do more outreach. Well, maybe we schedule some more live events in the community. Maybe we get on and we make some blog posts on the company page. Maybe we do like Facebook Live. We do stuff to get the community at large recognizing the senior living community as an expert and as someone who wants to provide assistance. So even if they don't want to move a loved one to that community, the general feeling surrounding the senior living business is positive. Like, well, you don't have to move your mom there, but they have support groups every month. You don't have to have a loved one to go to support group. Oh, great. Because then, even if, Sally doesn't end up moving her mom, well, maybe Sally's mom, eventually passes away. Sally's neighbor, she's dealing with her dad who has dementia. And Sally says, well, if you're looking for somewhere to move, I had a great experience just going to support groups at X, Y, and Z community.
And so that's so interesting to me with this whole space in terms of caregiving, dementia specifically. It's still such an antiquated model of getting the word out. It's still like, from what I've seen, 90% of the communication is word of mouth. And people, even when they're looking for solutions, they turn to their friends, they turn to their family. And while there are online options and, forums, the UK Alzheimer's Forum is actually pretty awesome, but not so much in the US for whatever reason, whether that's cultural or otherwise. How do you get the support people need at scale?
I think everything to some degree is word of mouth, right? Like if you were going to go buy a TV is not a good example in 2019, but I'm going to use it anyway. We're going to buy a TV like 10 years ago, TVs were super expensive. Now it's easy, but you would maybe say to your friends, oh, well, like what kind of TV do you have? Do you like it? Oh, I have an Apple TV. Yeah, I love it. Or I have an Apple TV. I hate it. Okay. Well, you kind of crowdsource like big decisions. So people want to go, especially for a really personal decision of moving somebody to a care community. You want to go to people you trust. So there's a level of, you want to make sure there's trust there.
But then at the same time, with the TV example, I start there. I always start there. And you might look on Amazon and be like, are there any like rockin' deals right now? And then I'm going to go to Best Buy and look at every TV that's available and like judge it with my own eyes and talk to the guys there who this is what they do all the time. They're not on commission, they're on salary. So I say, hey, what's the deal? And so it's like multi-level expert advice to filter down the decisions ultimately to the one you want.
Right. Yeah. I think that's how I still think to some degree that's how this kind of works as well. But a lot of times families aren't even sure where to start because they're not even sure if mom really needs dementia care. They don't know what dementia even is. So it's hard for them to get started with a process where they don't even know what the first step might be.
Yeah. So that's really the opportunity that I see as well. And where CaringWire, ultimately what we want to become is that destination for caregivers to start their care journey and support them with information, community, and connections to resources when they are making those decisions. So as you're designing a community, a dementia community, tell me about, kind of what best case looks like. If there's a scale 1 to 10, what's a 10 dementia care facility look like? And then as you look ahead, what are those innovations on the horizon that you're seeing?
A 10 is a community that physically and emotionally matches the needs of the person living with dementia. So it's a community where maybe it looks like a little town, or maybe it doesn't. But effectively, there are things there that make it feel like the decade that people think that it is. We're not setting up like high-tech computers and robots all over the place, trying to make it look like it's 2019 when the people living there think it's, 1958, right? And the staff understands dementia care. They know how to speak to the people living with dementia. They know how to embrace their reality. Yeah, that would be the 10. Like people really get it.
Yeah,
with a 10.
And so as somebody coming in to evaluate that,
what?
As somebody, my mother who might not know a whole lot about it 5 years ago, coming into a facility, is it just the sensation you get like, yes, this is right? Or are there other cues to pick up on?
I mean, I have a whole list of like 22 things I tell people to look for with assisted living. But I think it does come down to a feeling, right? Like if you're looking at colleges, I compare it to looking at colleges. Like if you're looking at a university and you show up and you're like, ooh, I don't know. It doesn't give you a good vibe, then you wouldn't go there. And it's the same thing with senior housing. Like you're not going to move somewhere where you walk in and you're like, I don't know about this, you really want to walk in and have a good feeling, or at least some semblance of a positive emotion, I mean, like, you could be worried, you could be nervous, you could be scared.
Yeah.
But you don't want to walk in and be like, well, this place, like, this isn't any good. Yeah.
Yeah. Wouldn't leave my cat here.
Right. Yeah.
So
especially my cats, they're very plush.
Two more questions.
They're very plush life.
So I could literally ask you questions all day because I find this terribly interesting. But I do see we're running out of time. So I'll try to limit myself to two. On that topic, right? I was just at a care conference this last weekend. It was a long-term care expo. And one of the really interesting things I heard was about some supplements. And it was an RNA supplement. Obviously, I've heard of RNA before from 5th grade chemistry class, but I had RNA and supplement had never gone together in my mind. Mm-hmm. Hear other things like that in terms of pet therapy or other types of things. What's your opinion on those? And do you design those into the programs as even if they don't necessarily have a long clinical trial and a lot of literature written about them?
So like pet therapy and things like that? Yes. I think all that art, music, all that stuff is great. Anything, like hands-on that makes people smile, that's good. I don't think that there needs to be I don't think it needs to be a whole research study to prove that like pet therapy is effective, stuff like that. Yeah. Right. I mean, like you can watch it. I always bring in stuffed animals that look and feel real, like cats and dogs, baby dolls. I love setting up nurseries in there, and you put the baby dolls in the nursery, put the pets in a little pet shop area.
Yeah.
You don't need, just having experienced it many a time over, I don't need, a research paper to tell me that it works because I've seen it live. Sure. And I've seen it make a massive difference in someone's day and therefore in someone's ongoing life. So, yeah.
It's all about really just making people comfortable no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So last question.
Yep.
Maybe I'll have a secret last question. Who knows? But balance is a major theme that comes up on this show and really in everyone I talk to in this industry, both professionals and caregivers. So what advice would you have for someone caring for a loved one with dementia and also trying to balance everything else that they have going on with their life?
Well, that's the main thing. Like, that's why I wrote that journal with my friend Megan. We made that journal because we realized, caregivers really aren't taking care of themselves. Every other journal and, anything out there was like about the person living with dementia, which is great. Like, you need that. But you also need information to help take care of the caregiver. So I always tell caregivers, don't be the only person. Like, don't be the sole caregiver. If you're taking care of your mom at home, please have a neighbor come help you out, hire a home care agency, in the very least, find time for yourself and also find support. Get education through a support group, find people who are in your similar situation so you're not alone.
Yeah, that's great.
That's
yeah. Okay. And last question. Yeah. Tell me, Rachel, what is next for Dementia by Day? What's
next? Well, my intro consulting product is currently $1,100. I'm raising it to $1,500 at the end of the month. Nice. And that's just like the first step in working with me. Then people can go, I have a 2-week program, I have a 1-month program, I have a 6-month program. I am considering, probably going to do it, hiring a friend of mine to help me with some of the events and stuff like that. I want to get to the point where it's less follow-up for me. I definitely still need to do a lot of not so much outreach anymore, but it's a lot of following up with people and being okay, what do we, having things just chugging along and being able to have a couple people that I hire. I don't really want anybody necessarily handling the dementia care side of things. That's my thing. But people to help me with the little stuff, like sending out invoices, finding sponsors for my podcast, helping with events.
Sure.
things like that. So being able to book a few months out in that kind of way. And in about a decade, I think I want to own a adult daycare in about a decade here. But we'll see if I do that.
It's interesting you say that. I thought you were going to go with a training center where like folks like Brookdale could send their people. It's like a secondary education facility.
Maybe. I kind of like doing the training like at wherever it is. I think that there's a lot of places out there that offer like training. I want to be able to do more than just train staff. I like public speaking. I'm good at it. It's fun for me, but I want to do more than just be like, hey, send your staff here. Like I'll train them.
Okay.
Anybody can do that. I want to be able to like go to a place and provide more value than just like meeting with the direct care staff. I've trained thousands of, direct care staff members in the last like 3 years. Like,
well, the adult daycare is definitely needed.
Oh yeah. Adult daycare would be a cool thing. So we'll see if I do that. I mean, I might get to the point where I'm doing enough with consulting that I don't know. We'll see. We'll see about that in a decade or so.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Rachel, I really appreciate your time today. And thank you very much for joining us. Everybody keep a lookout for Dementia by Day. And thank you very much, Rachel.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.